So to kick things off, I'd love to hear who you are, what do you do, and why do you do it?
And why do I do it?
Yes, why do you?
Yeah, okay. Yes, my name's James Ashford. I'm the founder of GoProposal, which is pricing and proposal software for accountants and bookkeepers that enables them to price consistently and to sell more confidently. I guess why I do it, and for me, the reason I'm in business is for my family, Emma. And, you know, that's at the center of what we're doing. Like I had this question years ago, which is, how do I solve the problem of money? Like I saw it as a stress in my parents' lives and, you know, and other family members' lives and friends' lives and stuff. It's always a source of stress. And I just remember having this question, how do I just solve that problem? So I've always been kind of looking for different ideas and various businesses and things. I think I've started like 50 business ideas and 49 of them have failed, right? And so I was, through the last business I was working in and really wanting to help business owners out, I started just to kind of chat to business owners and find out what the challenges are, what the problems are. And it nearly always comes down to, Emma, the junction where they make money. So where they're charging for whatever it is, they're charging for their service, they're charging for their products, they're charging for their time, whatever it is. In that intersection there, that will be the make or break of that business. Like, are they able to get the money fast enough? Are they getting enough in? Are they giving too much away? Because that will ultimately control their profitability. So I always like to make things as simple as possible. So to my mind, you know, in a business, you're providing something of value and getting something of value back. That's it. And you need to make sure that the money you're getting back sustains you, makes you profitable, right? So every business I encountered, that was the issue. And it didn't matter whether it was a startup business or £100 million business. I worked with a whole range of them, fix that problem. And like fast, like it's not like within a month or within a week, that problem was fixed and it sets them on a different track. So I did it for so many businesses, so many different industries. And I always have this belief, Emma, which is if you can help enough other people to get what they want, you'll eventually get everything that you want. Yeah. So I just kept helping business after business doing that. And then I met an accountant. He said, oh, we've solved, you think accountants have got this nailed, right? Accountants, they're all about money. They know how to solve this. And he thought he had it nailed. And I said, well, look, let me show you what I can do. Did it for him. Didn't think anything more of it. And then another accountancy firm said, how are you doing that? And that was the spark I was looking for. And that was the thing that made me think, is this the one that could solve the problem of money?
Yeah. I mean, just following on from that, am I correct in saying that you were working in the accounting industry prior to developing GoProposal? No connection at all. No expertise, no credibility. Nobody knew me. And in fact, there's an author, the book behind me, who spent a lot of time in the accounting space. He's not an accountant, but he spent a lot of time in that space. The moment he saw what I was doing, he rang me up and he said, what are you doing? He says, you're making a huge mistake here. He says, it's the worst industry to be in. They'll take forever to make a decision. They question everything. They don't want to pay for everything. They hate selling. You've got the worst products in the worst industry. What are you doing? And I said, they're human beings with hopes and dreams and fears. And I'll talk to that. Yeah. So why the accountancy profession though? What gave you the motivation to think, right, I'm going to help accountancy firms and accountants, you know, help develop their business and improve?
Yeah, I don't think that was the motivation, Emma. I think I go back to me and my family, like, is this the thing that's going to free us up and give us what we want? And I always think that should be the starting point, because that is the only unique thing about your business, that it's the only business on the planet that's designed to give you the life that you want. And it's not a selfish thing. You have to put you at the center of it. So that was the real motivator. So like I say, I'd solved this issue for several businesses, met the accountancy firm. But then when I got into it, the thing that really then just clicked with me, and sometimes Steve Jobs says this, you can't join the dots up moving forward, but looking back, you can. So I'd had a business that had failed several years ago, and it failed because we didn't have the full finance function in place in that business. We didn't invest heavily enough into our finances. I saw it as like just an expense and keep your costs as low as possible. And so I was acting on 18-month-old data
and making good decisions. And, none of them were majorly wrong, but every single one of them took me 1 degree off course. And then by the time I got my kind of blindfold removed, we were on the edge of a cliff and I couldn't back out of it, right? So I solved this problem for several industries, but when I hit the accounting industry, I thought, you know what? Not only can I help you guys to build more profitable businesses yourself, but I can help you in turn to help your clients to build more profitable businesses for themselves, because accountants, like many people, they're scared to death of charging enough. They're scared to death of offering everything they can. And so I thought, I'm going to show you how you need to help your clients here. So I never and everything up until that point in the accounting industry in this space was from an accountant and in the accounting industry, right? The thing that I did was straddle both the businesses and said, right, well, I've got 1 foot in the accountant's camp and I've got 1 foot in the business owner's camp. Let's create a win-win situation here. So I think whether it's serendipity or luck or grace or whatever you want to call it, Emma, but kind of my journey kind of took me to that point. And the beauty about the accounting industry with this specific product is that every accountancy firm sells roughly the same set of services, right? So you go to a web design company and they all have different names for things. They do different things, right? But you go to, or plumbers do different things, but you go to an accountancy business, they all have the same set of services. So it became easy to then replicate that for each firm that we're working with.
So from your perspective, do you think that you have changed the way that most accountancy firms now price their services and help them improve?
Definitely. Yeah. So that was always my goal. And I believe with businesses, the way we grew, Emma, was I just wanted to serve and help that industry and help that space. So I wasn't if you look at my LinkedIn profile, would have like a video a day going out. There was a time when I didn't do any videos, if you can possibly imagine that, right? And someone said to me, why are you being so selfish? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, there's people out there that need your help today. They need to hear that message, and you could help them or uncouple them from a challenge or move them forward or remove a limiting belief or something. So when I came into this space, my view was, I'm just going to help as many people as I can. So we produce content all the time. I wrote my book. I talked to events, and every single time, my entire view is, I'm just here to help someone today. And if they want to buy our product as well, fantastic. But if they just want to take the advice, and I know loads of people who have taken our advice or read our book and used one of our competitors' products. And I'm like, that's fine. If that works for you, cool. But if you can take our principles, then here you go. But one of the biggest things I think, Emma, that I think I've done for a lot of people is just give them permission to do what they always knew was right in the first place. Yeah. Like when you work, especially in professional services, you think you have to act and behave in a certain way, or you learn this technique for doing that, or whatever, and it might not quite sit right with you, but the other accountancy firms are offering gold, silver, bronze packages, so you're going to do it too, or the other firms selling by time or whatever, but it's never quite sat right with you. And I just find that when I speak to so many people, like my overarching messages, all those thoughts and ideas that you believe were right all along, they are. Just go and do what you know is right. So I feel that I've given people permission to do what they knew all along and to uncouple them from old thinking and to give them a new way of thinking, some new philosophies, yes, some new strategies and some new technology, but in their heart, they knew what they needed to do.
I know we've gone behind the idea of GoProposal and what the motivation was, but would you mind just sharing what GoProposal is exactly for the viewers who are watching right now and haven't actually used the tool before, if that's okay?
Sure. So I'll explain in a different industry first so you understand where it came from. Yeah. So there was a plasterer that I knew, and I think he had like 6 kids. Like, I don't know if he didn't have Netflix or something like that, but he had so many kids, right? And he wasn't having dinner with them. Yeah. So he was going out and quoting in the day, coming home with a load of quotes, getting back home, the family would eat, and he would go to one side and have to prepare all these proposals. And I'm like, that's crazy, man. I said, I've solved this. Let me show you what you need to do. So I developed effectively a menu of his services. And what will always happen in this case is people say, oh, that might work for a plasterer. It might work for an accountant. It won't work for me because the way I charge or the way I sell is too complicated. There's always a way.
If there's always a way that can be deciphered. I met I tell you where I did this even before the plasterer, was with a landscape gardener, and he said that it won't work for us because every project's unique. I said, it's not. I says, go and take all your projects and pile them up in rough piles of kind of like within like a few £100 of each other, a few £1,000 of each other. And he did it. He said, James, I'm gutted. He said, I've only ever done 5 projects. I thought and then a week later he said, I've got it down to 3. And his breakthrough moment was he came out of a meeting, and it was the same with the plasterer. Rather than walking out of that meeting with a headache of having to produce a proposal, they were walking out with a deposit and a start date, right? And freedom to spend their evening doing what they want. They may seem like small things, but it's massive, because what you've actually done, you've agreed the transaction there and then with that client. That client has given you the hour to discuss this proposal, this project, the garden, the plastering, accounts, whatever. The moment you walk away from that meeting, the moment I come out of this meeting, I've had a text before this meeting, Emma. I've had a delivery. I've got a pallet on the drive. So I know I've got to go and sort that out after this meeting, right? So if you're going to try and follow up with me, you think, well, James is rude. He's not replying to me. I've got a million things I need to do. But in this hour, we have our time. So you've got to be able to close the deal in the hour. You've got to be able to agree what it is that you're selling to them. If they don't want to pay that much, fine. What do you want to take out? And people get afraid of that discussion, right? Of when it's too much. So you've got to have the conversation at some point. So you're either going to have it via email in a month's time or right now, face to face. And a method of getting them to agree, to accept, and potentially to give you some money, or at least the card details or a deposit, and to take the next step. And if you guys are digital cloud experts, but it doesn't matter what you tell a client. It doesn't matter how good you say you are to someone. They will judge you on your actions and on their experience of you. So if you say with this and with that, but then their experiences, it's going to take you a month. I've got a guy that's doing some fitted wardrobes for us in the house right at the moment. It's taking him weeks to get me a proposal. So now all I'm thinking is, how long is it going to take him to fit them? Yeah. And if there's a problem, how long is it going to take him to come back and fix that? Like, you have all these doubts because I'm now basing his expertise on how fast he was able to give me a proposal, because the only thing I can judge him on.
Yeah.
I don't think I've answered your question, actually, Emma. I haven't actually answered the question you gave me. So what GoProposal actually is effectively a menu of services with some sophisticated pricing calculations that sit behind the scenes, that can be as complex as you want them to be, so that you can clearly present them to a client in a meeting whilst you're sat with them, so you can logically agree the services that they need from you at the level that they need it, present a fee, and if that fee is too much, to be able to take things out. If they want more things, add things in, and then to be able to get them to sign it off there and then, and then to trigger off all of the following processes, whether that's workflows, onboarding, payments, invoicing, etc. So you walk out of that meeting having wowed the client and having started the relationship.
And the good thing is there is the engagement letter too, which obviously means that is then set. So once that engagement letter is signed, there's no worry for the businesses who are obviously sending these, because that's all in writing then. Am I correct?
100%. And people get engagement letters in their own right are a complicated product. So for example, let's say you service charities. Yeah. You would need a library of over 500 engagement letters just for charities, because of all their different nuances and circumstances. And so if you're not an expert in that, how do you know you're going to pick the right one? And that's just the base. You've then got to put the services in there, the service schedules, who's the principal serving that client, key dates, all this information. And because that takes so long, it normally sit within the hands of one or two people who have that expertise within a business, right? But why should it, when we can actually build the intelligence into it, so that literally my 11-year-old daughter, Scarlett, could produce a fully compliant engagement letter for the most complex charity that you service in under 5 minutes, that would be guaranteed to be cast iron. So, and to my mind, that's the point we've got to be able to get to. Otherwise, you either won't get around to doing it, or if you do it, it's going to have errors in it. And so that's why we need to automate these things.
Agreed. Just going back to your point where you mentioned that obviously business owners turn around and say, no, this definitely would not work for my business because it's too complex or I offer too many services. What would you say to reassure them? How easy is it for them to obviously put together the services they do provide and then upload that to the system?
Into GoProposal or into any system, Emma, if they're outside?
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I would always wind it back a step further and just question people as to why they think this is going to be difficult. And this is really important, that we have self-awareness as to why we're making a certain decision. And one of the big things in my book that I go into great depth is around the mindset of people, because, when it comes to selling, I don't care what industry you're in, we all have fears associated with it. We've all experienced bad salespeople, and we don't want to be associated with that. You're putting yourself up for judgment when you offer a price to someone. If you're an accountant and you're in a small town and the person you're quoting's kid goes to your kid's school and you have to see them on a school run, or there's the fear of rejection, and every time you get rejected, it like stirs up that emotion of the girlfriend or boyfriend that rejected you, or like there's so much emotion wrapped into this. And it's the point where you say to someone else, this is my value, this is my worth, this is what I'm worth in the world. Okay. And I think we all have an issue with that. We all have an issue. If you're good, we all have imposter syndrome. We all doubt ourselves. We all don't think we're good enough. So at this exchange, at this interaction, we're fundamentally saying, I'm worth this much and I want you to pay it. And so the psychology and emotions that get stirred up there are vast. It's such a complex web to unpick, right? Therefore, when someone sees something like this and they say, yeah, but my pricing would never fit for that because I do loft conversions, or I do whatever, landscape gardening, or I'm a plumber, or I'm an accountant or whatever, you've got to really unpick that and think, is that the truth though? Are you just offering that as an excuse because you don't actually want to solve this problem because you're too afraid of what it's going to actually surface, which is the fact that you're going to sit in front of, the worst case, Emma, is sit in front of existing clients and saying, you need to pay me more money. Like that's the ultimate fear that so many firms have, because of this fear of rejection, and you'll never get rid of that fear of rejection. And so it doesn't actually matter how complex something is. So GoProposal is specifically for accountants and bookkeepers. There are some other businesses that use it, but it's specifically for accountants and bookkeepers. That's who we service. But even with those, there are some very complex services that you could provide, like complex audit or a company restructuring or something like that, where people would believe there is no way that you could decode the pricing of that. There is always a way. It may be hugely, hugely complicated. It may have literally hundreds of thousands of permutations of a price just for that service, but we can figure it out. And we've got the sophistication in the back end to achieve that.
Well, I can second that, because at Raffingers, we're huge fans of not only the tool, we literally live by it, but also of your book, Selling to Serve. So I know we've probably touched base on, the motivation and why you've gone down this route. But what was the idea behind the book, Selling to Serve, and why do you believe that it can help so many businesses?
Yeah. Okay. So back to the point of when I came into the accounting industry, I had no credibility. Like, why should anyone listen to this guy? He's had a failed business. He's not an accountant. Why should we listen to him? So when I first encountered the accountancy firm, which was called at the time My Accountancy Place in Manchester, they've now rebranded as MAP. I started working with them. We implemented GoProposal, but then I started working with them on the entire onboarding journey. So how do people sign, get to their website in the first place? How do they arrange a discovery call? How do they go through that sales process? And how do we wow them through the whole onboarding piece, right? So I built out an entire sales process for them that had some really innovative things in there. So for example, like when you've got a client come into your office for the first time, how do they know where to go? Like, do they get reminders of when their appointment is? Do you send them a video of how to get into your car park and where to park? When they get into there, does the receptionist or the admin staff know who's coming that day so they can greet me by my name? Have you got my company name
in like on the screen behind them when they come in saying, you know, Raffin just welcomes so and so. Do you have a drinks menu? Do you know the fact that I don't drink milk and I only drink soy milk, you know, in my coffee? Like, has all this stuff been planned out? And if you think that's excessive, no, it's not. If you know, I now spend with Map through GoProposal like $6,000 a month, right? So what's that? How much is that a year? You're gonna have to add it up. 60, 70,
Oh
72.
no, don't embarrass me.
72. 72K a year, right? So over 10 years, let's say this service, that's nearly £750,000, right? So what else costs £750,000? A house, like some ridiculous Rolls Royce Cullinan or something like that. If I was to go and buy one of them, I would expect that experience. But even if you're not charging that much, if you're charging £1,000 a month, which is 12 grand a year, over 10 years, 120 grand, that's still a high-end car, right? So I would expect that experience. So in the firm, Paul was really impressed with the work I'd done around that systemization. I became a 10%. I took 10% of that business of my accountancy place, and in turn, I gave him 10% of GoProposal because he helped to inspire the product. And I knew I needed credibility in the space really quick. So there is a book behind me. This is a real bookcase. This is not like a fake background.
It's wonderful. I love it.
So there's a really good book by Daniel Priestley called Key Person of Influence. And in that book, he talks about 5 different things to establish yourself as an authority in an industry. And one of the things is to write a book. So I thought, what have I got that's unique that I can actually offer? And it's just what we've done so far in the firm in terms of around the entire sales process and the onboarding piece. And so obviously GoProposal's woven into that as well, but it was an educational book. So I gave myself a week to write it. So my stepdaughter's friend was doing business studies at uni. And I said, do you think you could edit a book for me? She said, yeah, when do you want to do it? I said, I need it next Saturday. I'll hand it to you. So every day that week, I traveled everywhere by train if I was going somewhere, or I'd be down writing it, right? I remember getting back to the train station in Doncaster. My wife said, do you want me to come and pick you up? I'm like, no, I've got to get to 14,000 words. I went into the pub and I just got my head down and hit 14,000 words and left. We published the book. There were typos in it. I had like people criticizing me, but the thrust of the book was strong. It was unique. It was helpful, etc. Corrected the typos, and it became a bestseller. Not a number 1 bestseller, but it became a bestseller, right? And then a couple of years later, I expanded the book. So I happen to have it here. Emma just happened to have it in my hand. So this is the first ever version I wrote. Have I gone blurry? This is the first ever version I wrote. So you can see it wasn't even thick enough for me to get any text on the spine. It wouldn't allow me to do it. But all I wanted it to do was to be able to make a noise when it hit the table, right?
Yeah.
Then, after a few years of being in this space and having so many more stories and battle scars and helping so many firms to achieve this, I really got to understand what the mindset was. And so I effectively rewrote the book. And then that was the next version. Yeah. And you can see it's kind of a like nearly 3 times the size. It goes into great depth. When we published that became a number 1 bestseller. It knocked Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street, and 50 Cent off the top spot. 50 was furious, Emma, texting me, knocking him off and that. But it genuinely comes from a position of like, if you never want to use the product, fine, but let me just help you. Let me give you something to serve you. And it will, I promise, it will change their entire thinking. It will generally have an impact in their business, but also, let's not hide away from it, it will also transition them into GoProposal. It effectively is the ultimate sales brochure for the product. Because if you read that, if you don't believe in it, you're not what I'm sharing in there, you won't progress, and that's fine. Yeah. But if you fundamentally believe what we're saying in the book and you believe it's right, you will get to the point where there is therefore only one conclusion, which is you need GoProposal in your life now. Yeah. And so, like, we've just done an event recently, an exhibition with, I don't know how many other vendors, 50 vendors or whatever, trying to sell their products. Everyone's trying to sell software. When they came to our stand, I'm like, I'll show you the software if you want, but let me just give you my book. Like, let me just help you today. Like, take this and go and use it because this will move you forward. So I don't have to sell the product. I just sell the book. So I do talks, videos that people, if they connect with what I'm saying, they get the book. If they connect with the book,
they move into GoProposal, but people are starting too far down the sales process. So yeah, and that book, Emma, got me like top speaking slots at events, like so many other companies wanted me to go and talk, not necessarily about the product, but about the book and about the learnings from it. So it also drives all of our marketing for the business. My marketing team have this, they have all of the audio files from it, they have videos from it. So they just post continual content using that.
Oh, that's amazing. So would you recommend then that bookkeepers and accountants do read your book first prior to moving over to the GoProposal platform? Is that the starting point?
Yeah, I believe so, because then when they come into the product, they won't like be coming in question thinking, is this right? Is this really going to work for us? Or it also unpicks those mindsets and the way they think, oh, well, we can't charge that much, or because we only deal with farmers, or we're in a little rural village here, or I'm only a one-man band, or whatever it is, right? It removes all of those limiting beliefs, those conflicting beliefs. The fact that, like, especially through the last couple of years, people think that no one has any money, right? Well, I'm from a mining village, like 3 miles that way. If I took you driving, if I went around and filmed it outside there's people aren't like wearing shabby clothes. Everyone's wearing nice clothes. They'll all be talking on iPhones. They'll be driving Mercedes and BMWs. They'll have 70-inch plasmas on the TV. Like, the money's there, yeah? We're spending $1.3 billion a day on Amazon. Jeff Bezos knows that people have money. Yet in our heads, we have this idea that we think, oh, but no one has any money, so I'll lower my prices. Or I'm like, no, let's move them up and give them value. Money is out there.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite chapter in the book?
I would always go to the mindset piece. So that the last part is kind of more implementation. So the mindset piece is really important. And I think why you really think selling is bad, like to really get under the skin of that one, I think is important. But also, like, the number one reason why clients say no. And I just love challenging people's mindset. So people think that the number one reason they say no is because of money or because of value or something like that. It's got nothing to do with that. The number one reason is they don't want to make another mistake. They don't actually trust themselves. It's so weird. Like, we think that we're charging too much, or they don't trust us, or they don't believe in us. They don't believe in themselves. Yeah. They've made so many bad decisions in their life, whether they, so my mate yesterday booked a holiday and over Christmas, and now they've implemented the new, COVID restrictions coming back. She's on the phone to Jet2 she's been on it 2 hours trying to cancel his, flight. So, like, he regrets that decision. So if you met him today, right? So he's coming to your office and you're now trying to sell him accounting services. He's in a very different frame of mind, and he's now going to be doubting himself. What if he buys this from you and you're not going to be able to let him cancel? Or he's got all these fears, and he'll come to you and say, it's just too much, Emma, I can't, it's too much. I can't spend that much, and walk out. And you think it's to do with money or it's to do with value. No, it's not. It's to do with the fact that he's just booked a holiday he can't cancel. He's going to lose $2,000, right? And so it's really important that we challenge these beliefs, but there's very few people, I think, really educating themselves and learning the fundamental psychology of human beings, because once you do that, it will help you to really break through lots of barriers.
I think it's the same for a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, where they're in a mindset, correct me if I'm wrong, where they're afraid to charge a lot of money for their services and might want to reduce it because they're worried that the retrospective client will turn around and say, no, sorry, you're way too expensive. What would you say when it comes to that? Is there anything you can say to reassure or to improve that?
Yeah, so first of all, you've got to get to the truth, Emma. So when someone says it's too expensive, you've got to find out, is that the truth? Like, can they not afford that? Or they think it's expensive compared to another accounting firm? Or is there another reason? So a really good question to get to the truth is to say, okay, well, if we made it affordable for you, is there any other reason you wouldn't move forward? Well, I really like my current accountant. I play squash with him on a weekend. Okay, well, if we found someone to play squash with here, like, is there any reason you would, like, you're asking? So when the question to say, if we could make it affordable for you, is there any other reason why you wouldn't move forward? That doesn't mean say I'm going to make it affordable for him. It doesn't mean say I'm going to lower the price or anything like that. I'm just trying to get to the truth. I'm just trying to get past another layer. Well, to be honest, the person you're saying is going to handle my account, I just think is too junior, and I don't think they're actually going to give me the level of expertise that I need. Brilliant. Let's go and have a conversation with them and figure out why they're the best person for you. Like, I just need to get to the truth. So I think that's really important that we push back past that. Just ask me what the question again was, Emma. Just to go back to the question, because there's another point I wanted to say.
So how would you reassure them to? So if accountants and bookkeepers were looking to maybe reduce the fees, what would you say?
Okay, I spoke to an accountant on Friday. I went to meet a friend for breakfast. This is a slight backstory. And he met me in his cafe that happened to be connected to a motorbike showroom. And he's trying to convince me to buy a motorbike. Now, I've never known how to ride a motorbike, but he's saying that I need one in my life. So I've now got a Triumph motorbike picture on my phone, and I'm starting to think about that. But anyway, so I came out of the car park and an accountant messaged me, and I said, I'll jump on a call with you. So I flipped my laptop up, sat in the car park, and I'm having a chat with him. And we're talking about this very same thing, about increasing fees. And one thing I got to was about how much staff training do you have? How much development of the team do you give them? And he says, well, to be honest, very little. We just don't have time. Like, we're working flat out and we don't have space. I know of an accountancy firm that half a day a week, their entire team works on development, either development of themselves, working with each other, role-playing certain scenarios, developing systems in the business and developing that. He was like, wow, that's unbelievable. I said, no. I says, you imagine the firm down the road that you're up against, half a day a week, they are spending bettering themselves. Like, I would be scared to death if I knew a firm was doing that, because you're only ever competing with one firm, Emma, which is your firm last week. Yeah. So all I have to be is better than that firm last week. Now, if you think that's too much of a stretch to give a tenth of your time up for staff development, start with a day a month, or half a day a month, sorry. Then go to half a day every 2 weeks, right? But you need to do that. In order to be able to do that, to be able to have that downtime, you need to charge more money. You're not currently charging enough to be able to only operate at whatever that is, 90%. 90%. Yeah. So to operate at 90%, and I love this quote where, the two woodcutters, the woodcutter story, Emma? So there's two woodcutters, and every day they're both chopping down trees. But every day at lunch, or a couple of times throughout the day, one woodcutter goes off for a break and comes back, and they carry on. So they both start at the same time, they both end at the same time. But at the end of the day, the guy that keeps taking breaks has always got a bigger pile of wood. And they do this for weeks and weeks. And the other guy comes over at the end and says, look, I need to ask you, like, what's going on? We start at the same time, we finish at the same time. You keep taking breaks. I'm working flat out all day, and you got more wood than me. How are you doing that when you're taking breaks? He said, I'm not taking breaks, I'm sharpening my axe. And we don't give enough time to ourselves and our team to sharpen our axes, so that although we're taking 10% out, when we come back, we're so much more efficient, we're giving so much more value, we're doing so much more. The only possible way you can get to that point is by charging more to free up your team to be able to do that. And there's so many things that if you charge more, it unlocks. So you can afford to pay your team more, you can afford to train them better, you can invest in systems and processes, and you can do all these extra things, right? You don't have to take on crap clients. You can just focus on having great clients, a smaller number of clients. So you have to be doing that. So then when a client says, but you're way more expensive than the other firm down the road, absolutely. So go and ask the firm this question. Go and ask the other firm this set of questions. How much do they pay what's their average fee they pay their staff, their average salary? How many staff to client ratio do they have? How much development time do they get given to their team? Go and ask them these questions, right? And then come back to me, and you'll understand why we charge what we charge. And so you've got to have a reason for charging more, and it has to be in the interest of the client. It's got to be to service them better. And then you need to develop the skills to be able to have that conversation and legitimately justify your fee. You know, we complete year-end accounts within 1 month of year-end. All of your accounts will be reconciled every single month. Our monthly management accounts are completed within 7 days after month end, so you can use it within your board meeting to make better decisions moving forward. Like, there's so many reasons that you can justify that extra level of investment. It's not an expense, it's an extra level of investment, but then you then have to educate that person on why you're charging that.
So you just really need to sell yourself and what it is you are offering. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. And you think about things, Emma, that you have bought that were way more expensive than you wanted to buy. Yeah. And you know what? You bought it anyway. You maybe took a while to think about it, but you saw the handbag in Next and you thought, oh, that's really nice. But then you went into the Chloe shop and they had this beautiful handbag, but it was 1,500 quid, but it was the best leather and it was so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. And you didn't dare buy it because it was just too expensive. But then you found the money, you justified it to yourself and you came back and you bought the handbag, right? Yeah. So it's just because something's expensive. I tell you, actually, I've got a really good friend of mine. He's a product designer. And he was in a client meeting last week, and he's kind of one head of sales as well. And they had this client who'd been to other product design companies, and they got to them. They presented the fee, and they were like, "Whoa, you're so expensive. You're like double the price of other businesses." And he just went, "We know." That was it. Brilliant. Didn't even argue. Didn't, you know? And sometimes when people say that, it's not an objection. It's just a whinge. You're so much more expensive than everyone else. You're twice the price. We know. We hear that all the time. But okay, where do we sign?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I'm sure there are like businesses and especially accountants and bookkeepers who probably do sometimes get offended by that, because obviously if you're offering a good service and you know that you're offering a good service, people should want to pay for that, right? And maybe they feel that they don't have to justify that service that is being offered.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely. So yes, if you go into, like, you go to some car garages today and you go into the Porsche garage and you say, "What's going on here? I've just been into the Ford garage and your cars are way more expensive than the car in the Ford garage." Yeah. And what? Like, it doesn't even support. Let me show you why. Like, they're made like this. I was someone was saying to me the other day, what's the G-Wagons? Yes. Why are G-Wagons so expensive? Like, why are they just, because they're like hundreds of thousands of pounds, right? Yeah. Is it because they're cool? Is it because like rappers have them and celebrities have them and that's why it bumped the price? I'm like, no. It's because they're designed to drive 1 million miles. Yeah. They're built to go 1 million miles. That's why they're so expensive.
Just going back to your book, I know obviously the 2021, yes, that one, it has a new edition has now been released. Am I right in saying that? So
that's that version. Yeah.
So what's included now in the 2021 edition that wasn't included prior?
So all of the mindset piece, so like another, probably half the book now is on mindset. And one of the assumptions I made when I wrote the first book was that you were happy to sell, you knew how to sell, you were ready for it, you just wanted the kind of the strategy, like, because I'm someone that says like, just show me how to do it, like just tell me what to do and I'll go and do it, okay? Where other people aren't like that. They're like, well, I need to understand why I need to do it and why I've been doing what I've been doing in the past and what are the reasons why I might not do it. And that all needs unpicking. So I realized I'd not done enough to help people with the map. And very often, so there's two things you need to move forward in business. You need the map and you need the mindset. And if you only have the map, it could be perfectly laid out, right? To show you exactly how to go from where you are to where you want to be. But if your mindset doesn't align with that, you will not take one step forward. So it was all about the mindset. But that said, I actually rewrote the entire book. I went from start to finish and rewrote everything. I took loads of bits out that I wasn't happy with from the start, reworked lots of bits. And before I published it, what people do is when they're doing something like this is and what I did last time, they'll kind of like lock themselves away and prepare it and then go, ta-da, we've now got the book, right? Well, this time, because I'm a slightly wiser person than when I first wrote it, I invited 50 accountants to proofread it for me. So rather than my stepdaughter's friend, I got 50 accountants say, do you want to proofread this book? You get early access to it. You get some chocolates and wine as well, right? So they read it, and their contribution and what their feedback led to another 50 pages being written, because they were like, you've not gone into enough depth here. I need to know more about that. So they shaped it up. So when I published it, the second version, I knew it was going to land because I'd already had 50 people shape it up and make it the exact book that they wanted it to be. So I was thinking, should I, and I could have done, just create a new title and it be a completely new book. But I felt I owed it to the first book to actually, republish it. So it is actually a very different version. So if I ever meet someone and said, oh yeah, I read that, and they say, I've read your book, I say the first version, and they say, yeah, so that's crap. Like, literally you need the new one. Let me just give it to you and start with that one.
Well, it goes without saying you are incredibly successful. So just on that point, what is your biggest success? Is there something that really resonates with you?
I think we've got well-rounded children.
Oh.
And I think that's mine and my wife's greatest success. We just always have this rule between us, which is like when our children go into the world and fly the nest, they shouldn't have anything that they need to fix. Yeah. There's nothing that we've broken, like in the head, or scarred them, or because like parents just mess kids up generally because not intentionally, but they tend to kind of just program them in the wrong way. So our fundamental goal is that, we never wanted our children to feel fulfilled and loved, and to, but never anything to fix. My stepdaughter, she's like 22 now, but like, she's just so good. And like, even when she like go to parties and stuff, we're like, right, take all this booze and drink all of it. Don't come back with any of it. And she'd come back with like, she'd drink one bottle. Like, we tried to corrupt her even, and like uncorruptible, just happy and content in their own skin, So yeah, I would say my children and my wife, my marriage, our happiness there. And I think that's important. I think it's so important that, because your family and the world that you've created for yourself has to be at the center of everything. When you lock your door at night and you kiss your kids, your dog, your wife, your husband, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, teddy bear, whatever, that world that you create for yourself has to be everything that you want. You have to be content and to find joy in that world. No one else is thinking about you at that point. So that has to be the center, and other decisions have to then build on that and reinforce that. But then building the business that's give us the life that we've now got, and that's going to, look after hopefully generations of the family, and we've been able to help lots of other family members out as well. Was I always wanted to build a business that was, first of all, impactful and made a difference. That was a goal. To be able to generate money and to be profitable, which we did that could grow without me, that would run without me. And we got to that point where I was no longer involved with it, that would create great careers for the team, which we did that, and then to ultimately sell it, to get a business to a point where it's valued enough by another entity for them to want to pay millions and millions of pounds for that business. And that was what we've achieved, and that's the process, the sales process, what we've been through, we went through this year, which took like 7-8 months, something like that, which was very deeply stressful and very life-changing in its own right. But then to get to that point where we did it and we made it and the cash hit the bank, like I had people saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a big party, we're gonna do this." I'm like, no, I just want to lie down. Like, it was just relief that we'd done it.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I got from it personally was just the proof that I knew what I was talking about. I always felt that I know what I'm talking about here. And for us to have achieved what we did, I'm hugely proud of that.
Can I just say, it was so lovely that you started off your biggest success talking about your family and your wife, etc. Because obviously a lot of people instantly just turn around when they're asked that question and say, oh yes, my business, or this award that I won, or I don't know, my book, etc. But yeah, it was lovely that you started with your family. It's like a breath of fresh air, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think it's the right order of things, and it's to realize that the business that you're building is there to give you the life that you want. That's it. Like you have, yes, you'll do it through serving of others, and you're creating amazing experiences and all that, but don't hide away from why you're doing it. It's a vehicle to achieve something. So when people have said, "How do you feel now? You've sold your baby. How do you feel like you've sold your business?" I'm like, "Great. That's what we always set out to do." How would you feel if Sage took it from 1.5 million revenue though to 5 million revenue in a few years? Buzzing. Like, I'd be made up for them. That's exactly what we built it to do. Like, I've got enough detachment that we got to achieve what we wanted to achieve from it.
Yeah, I mean, we will be moving on shortly to Sage and GoProposal. But before we do you mind me asking, what do you think that you do that no one else does?
Me personally,
yeah,
I don't know if I do anything that nobody else does. I'm sure that people can do things that I do. But I make decisions. And that's the thing that moves stuff forward. I spend a lot of time researching. I'll spend a lot of time preparing to make it. I don't like make whimsical decisions. I'll try and figure stuff out, and then once I've realized that this is the path, I'll make the step, I'll make the move, and if it's wrong, I'll make a change. I think, but maybe the thing that I do that most other people don't do is, I know that challenges will continue to come. You will always hit challenges. You do your best to plan against them and mitigate them, but they will come. But whenever a challenge hits, I always ask the question, how is this a gift? And if my answer comes back, it's not a gift. It's like, okay, if I had to find a gift in this, where would I find the gift? And I'm able to ask that with purpose and clarity, and I will find it. I will see a way through. So when everyone else is seeing this as the obstacle, I'll find a way through. So we had an issue with GoProposal a year or so ago, where our competitor had done a move. It was very smart on their part, but it caused us an issue, and it looked like we were going to. So, just for your knowledge, maybe other people won't be aware of this, but like with engagement letters, so with the product, you have to copy and paste your own engagement letters into the system that you get from your professional body. Well, they did a tie-up with the major professional body, the ACCA, that you could know they would no longer provide engagement letters. You now had to go through our competitor to get them. And I was like, oh man, what a move. But I just kept saying to myself, where's the gift? Where's the gift in this? And I thought, we'll write our own. We'll create our own engagement letters. And then I've just tracked people down, and I found the person that had written the engagement letters for the ACCA and said, do you think you could do something for us? And she's like, we can do something amazing here, right? So we've now built what I believe to be the industry's leading set of engagement letters, to the point now where professional bodies are coming to us saying, could we use your engagement letters for ours, right? But not only that, it's made our product more sticky. We never lost any clients, and we started charging for it. Like, I don't know, which is like 35 quid a month or something like that. We charge for it. So it started to generate us tens of thousands of pounds a month in its own right. But it all came from that question. When the problem and the challenge hit, my immediate default response is, where is it a gift? And where people won't see it as a gift, Emma, when a problem hits, is that this challenge no longer meets their expectation of what the future was going to be. They thought the future was this. They thought the path was this. And now this thing doesn't align with their expectation. So they become upset. They'll wander off the path. They'll stop. They'll do all these things, but they're not free enough in their mind to change their expectation. Well, let's change. I can't change the circumstances, but I can change my belief towards it. And whenever I learned this from Tony Robbins, there's so many things that are outside of our control, but there's always 3 things that are within our control. So that was outside of my control, that happening, right? But there's 3 things that are within my control. What am I going to focus on? What am I going to choose to focus on? What does it mean? And what am I going to do about it? And I feel that when everyone else is kind of getting stressed because they've hit a challenge that they didn't expect, it's outside of their control, and they're focused on the problem, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to focus on here? What am I going to mean it means for me? And what am I going to do about it? I.e., what decision am I going to make to move this forward today?
Well, I think you've answered my next question, because what I was going to ask is, is there any challenges that you've had to overcome where you thought, oh God, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? Would you say that piece of information you just gave in regards to the engagement letters was your biggest struggle? Or was there something else that you remember?
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest ones we've encountered recently, but we've had other ones in the past that have appeared, and you're like, oh my goodness, like when we first started with GoProposal, for the first few clients, we copied and pasted the pricing from our firm into your app. So when you got your app, you got our pricing, and we weren't saying you had to use it. We're just saying it's a starting point, right? And then someone said to me, how do you get around antitrust and anti-competition laws? And I'm like, quickly on Google, what's antitrust and anti-competition laws? And it is, you can't be price fixing. You can't tell someone else in an industry what to charge, right? But thankfully, we were small at the time, that we weren't seen to be influential. But it really panicked me, like, oh, crikey, what are we doing? What risk are we causing for us and for our clients? So instantly found the best anti-competition lawyer. Cost me tens of thousands of pounds. I had to spend money that I didn't expect to spend. And when we went through it, I'm like, but it enables our product to be set up really fast. Like, I need to be able to do this. And they're like, well, you can't. So I realized that actually every accounting firm is profitable, but just not consistently profitable. Like, you will have a client that is profitable. Okay, well, how about we create a wizard and we say, you put your prices in for one client that is profitable for 3 services, and we'll develop an algorithm that will then pre-populate the entire pricing matrix for you based on your most profitable client. So we built that within a few weeks, right? And, excuse me, it was a far better marketing proposition. Rather than saying, hey, you're pricing wrong, use our pricing. I'm saying, no, you're pricing right, just not consistently right. So let's take your pricing, our methodologies, and load this in. So it cost me a few grand, but we're a stronger, better protected business, and create, again, a huge opportunity. So whenever we've hit that challenge, where's the opportunity? Where is the gift? And it can be losing your number one client, Emma. Where is the gift in this? Your senior member of staff handing the notice in. Where is the gift in this? There is always a gift if you ask for it intentionally and really wanting to find it.
Yeah. So really have to look at the positives, and every challenge is a learning curve.
It is how to look at the positives. It is that. But in that scenario, I was also looking at the negatives and what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And to my mind, it's about seeing things as they are. There's something called the Stockdale Principle, which is James Stockdale. Captain James Stockdale was caught in the Vietnamese War, and he was a prisoner of war for 7 years. And when he came out, he was asked who didn't survive. And he said, oh, that's easy. That was the optimists. They all died. And then they said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, they were the ones that said, we'll be out by Christmas, and Christmas would come and go. We'll be out by Easter. Easter would come and go. And they died of a broken heart. And he said, you never got to lose faith that you will ultimately achieve what you want to achieve, but you have to face your current situation and all its pain and all its challenges and all its problems as realistically as you can. And when the pandemic hit, I got a phone call from someone I know, and she said, will you come and speak to my mum? She's like sat in tears. She's got a big business, 50 staff. She's about to go in and lay off some of her staff now because of the threats and everything. So I rang her and I said, look, let me come and see you. And she's like, I don't want any of this positivity bullshit. I don't want anyone to like get me all optimistic and fired up, because that's not the case. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come and talk to you very practically. She says, well, I don't want you to come and see me. I said, well, it's tough because I'm around the corner, and I'm like, get the kettle on. I'm knocking on your door in a minute. So I literally pulled up at her house, and we sat there and we just looked at the situation very practically. Like, what is actually going on? What are the challenges? What are the risks? What are the opportunities? And let's just be really honest with ourselves. So you have to face a situation honestly. You have to be aware of all the things that can go wrong. And you're right, be as positive and as hopeful as you possibly can be that you are going to achieve the outcome. But to be just blindly optimistic is as bad as being blindly pessimistic.
So for UK startups and SMEs that are watching right now, what would you say to them in regards to a piece of tech advice? Is there anything that you would say, to help them move up in their business?
Yeah, so my tech advice is not to take on tech straight away. It's to figure out what is the process or the experience that you're actually wanting to achieve initially. So whenever I've been into businesses, whether it's the accounting firm or other businesses, and I've systemized lots of businesses, like the one that springs to mind was a football academy. They were running locally and they were doing like 75 grand a year. And I helped them to systemize their payment process first and solve that payment issue around the tech around that, Emma, and then to start building some other systems. And within 18 months, they went from 75 grand a year to £750,000 a year. And now they're the number one franchise in that space. 50 franchises, massively grew through the pandemic, even though other events-based sports businesses were going down, they just absolutely soared. So what I would say is, with tech, with whatever you're trying to solve, it always starts with post-it notes on a whiteboard, like and a big post-it notes on a big wall. That's always my default position. What is the process we're looking to achieve? How do we want this to happen? How do we want the flow of money to come into the business? Or how do you want to do this? Or what's the experience? Big walls important. Post-it notes are good because you can be like, no, that's not going to work there. And to think through it, like, okay, so let's say, and where I would always focus is on the generating of money, like that is the key area, because cash flow, cash, being profitable, they're the things that's going to kill you off. At the center of your business is making money. I don't care what your reason why is, that you want to inspire 1 million children to become fitter and more active and healthier. Beautiful, Ben. That'll get you out of bed in the morning. Yeah. But making money is the primary function of the business. It's the primary function. Okay. The moment you lose sight of that, means that now you won't be able to service them. You won't be able to impact those 1 million children if you don't have making money at the start of it. So big wall, and normally resolve the flow of money initially and challenge it. So let's say, for example, you've got your post-it notes, right? We're going to take the payment off the client here. Okay. Or what if they can't pay by, bank transaction, they want to pay by the card? What if the payment fails? What if they cancel the payment? Like, you have to think through the scenarios and say, right, so that is the flow. That's the process. You've challenged it. You've had other people challenge it. It won't be perfect. You have to then go with it. You have to make the decision and say, that's good enough. Let's get version 1 out of the door of that. Version 1 is better than version none, Emma, is a big belief of mine. Once you've got the process, then you can go and look at the tech and say, right, what's the tech that will enable me to achieve this? And if it's not going to do what you want it to do, what are you prepared to sacrifice? Or is it that you need 2 bits of tech? Or is it that you need 2 bits of tech with some manual intervention in the middle, and I can achieve that? Or 2 bits of tech, and in actual fact, I could go on to upwork.com, go to Upwork and pay for someone to do an integration for me for £1,000 between those 2 pieces of tech, or to develop a zap between those 2 pieces of tech to achieve my vision of the process. But it starts with the vision of the process. What the mistake people make is they have a flawed process. They will find a piece of tech. They will try and then shoehorn their flawed process into the piece of tech and then say this tech don't work. And it's like, no, your process doesn't work. You didn't get that right to start with. So process first, then find the tech that fits it.
Do you think, though, that obviously if they were to have flaws within their system, that would be like a learning curve for them as a business?
Definitely, yeah. And you want to, challenge it yourself. And I'm a big believer of being educated. And, if I meet a business owner, my first question is, what were the last 10 books you read? And if they're not telling me, if they've not read 10 books, I'm like, right, okay, well, that's where you start. Come back once you've read these 10 books. Like, there's so much brilliant information out there to be, I don't watch the news. I have no negative input into my life. I don't have negative people in my life. And the ones you have to have in your life, I learn to manage them very carefully and minimize my interaction with them. So, you've got to restrict what's coming in and make sure that what's coming in is super positive, right? And so I'm constantly learning, constantly educating myself, consuming the best video content, investing in mentors, reading the best books to understand what I want to do, so that when you come to put that process down, you've already had some it's coming from a position of strength and knowledge. You're not just kind of winging it. And a lot of that's out there. Like my local pub really frustrates me because I just know they could make so much more cash. I'm like, have you ever just Googled how to make more money out of customers in my pub? Like, you'll find 10 ways of doing it, or you'll find how to create a better experience for diners in a restaurant. Like, there's so many things that you could get. Don't make it up. Go and model what's working already. If my marketing team come to me and say, right, we've got this new initiative and we're going to do this marketing strategy and we're going to do this and this, I'm like, brilliant. Where have you stolen it from? And if they, oh no, we've not stolen it, we've invented it. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not going to be the one that's going to test it. So you go and find someone who's achieving the results we want. Let's steal it from them, and we'll do that. So our video marketing strategy is stolen from Gary Vaynerchuk. He told us to steal it. We invested in his mentor, and he said, just copy what I'm doing, steal it. I'm like, cool. I read his books. We wrote down when he posts, how he posts, what his videos look like. And I said to my marketing team, copy that. That's it. So model what's already working is what I would say.
No, that's amazing. All very positive as well, which I love. So
Yes.
I think a lot of business owners, especially, you know, accountants, bookkeepers, and just in general during this pandemic too, need to stay positive and just, you know, like you've said, just visualize what it is they want and make it happen, I suppose.
Yeah, and staying positive, Emma, a big part of that is removing the negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you didn't become any more positive than you are now, but you just got rid of all the negative stuff. So stop listening to the news. That is not going to serve you. It's not going to help you. I never watched anything about the pandemic throughout the news. I was too busy writing the second version of my book and selling my business.
Yeah.
Like, just give me the update. Like, other people will read that crap and watch that. Just tell them what I need to wear a mask. Cool. Fine. I need to isolate. Not a problem. Fine. Like, just give me. I just need the bullet points, and I'll get on with what I need to do and operate within that. Right. But I'm not going to sit listen to Boris going on and on for hours on end talking crap. Right. So I don't listen to the news. I make sure that, like, what I'm listening to, I go into the gym in the morning and I'm listening to kind of positive, motivational videos from good people. I'm listening to audio books. If I'm in the car, I'm not listening to the radio. I'm putting a good audio book on, or I'm reading books. I'm listening to videos. The people I have in my life are brilliant people. The only people I'll tell, like when I was selling my business, the only people that knew about that were 5 or 6 people very close to me. And maybe only 2 of those were family. The rest, like, I had family members that didn't know what I was doing. My sisters didn't know what I was doing. My brother did, my sisters didn't, because I had to. We talk about time, and you are running out of time. You only have a certain amount of time. It's finite. Money we can always get more of, but the other thing that's finite is energy. We only have a certain amount of energy to put into something. You have to protect it. So when I think about being positive, what I actually think about, Emma, is how do I preserve my energy? That's a different way of thinking about being positive. And therefore it's cutting out that negativity. So I'm not going to tell my parents about me selling my business, because they'll try and protect me. Oh, be careful, don't do that. And they're coming from a position of love. They don't want me to be hurt, but that's not useful for me. And there's other people, like when we bought a car recently, I've just ordered a new car. Just ordered a Porsche, Emma.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, a Porsche Panamera, spec'd up to the max. Like, it's crazy. Massage seats, TV, the lot is crazy, right?
Oh, I'm jealous.
When I did that, I've not posted that. I won't post. You know what people do that post. It's like how it was, how it's going. Like, I'm not gonna put a picture of it. In fact, I might have actually shared it somewhere, but it had context in me sharing it. But I wouldn't put it on my personal Facebook page or anything like that. But there are 5 friends that I would text a picture to and say, look what I've just bought. And they'll be absolutely buzzing for me. Like, when we sold the business and I told them how much we'd sold it for, to a couple of friends, they said, I couldn't be happier if I'd done it, if I'd achieved that myself. Like, if I had achieved that, I couldn't be any more happy than I am for you. Like, they're the people that you want in your corner, that you'll share that with. And if you've got people around you who are not that, who are negative, remove them, get rid of them. And I have no issue saying, and in the past, saying to people, I don't want you to be under any illusion whether we've fallen out or not, or whether I'm going to speak to you or whether I'm ignoring you. We're never going to speak again after this. We're done.
Yeah.
Like, never speak to me again. And then I will use some choice words. And that, I don't want to be in any doubt, Emma, if that's the end of the friendship, we're done. Okay. And so I'm happy to remove people, not a problem. And I say to my kids, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Like, find some better people. There's some wonderful people out there. Get rid of them and find some better people. But the people that you have to have in your life, because they're your mum or your dad, whoever, right? Just manage them. Just learn how to manage those. Like, minimize the interaction. Make sure the interaction is around something that you like to do. Like, sometimes my mum, she's wonderful, I love her, right? But she can be a little bit negative when she comes around or talk about stuff. Unless I get her to play dominoes. So she comes around, I get the kettle on, mum, let's have a game of dominoes. Like, I can just I can manage that situation, keep it positive. And, or if she bakes something, like, she'll be buzzing about baking something. So we can keep it around stuff that I can manage and not indulge in.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, especially people that, you know, I've come across in the past, I think being negative is sometimes just something that you don't realize is coming across, as in you just can't help it sometimes. I think everyone, unless you really worked on it and you figured out what needs to come out of your life, what you need to do to be a better person, etc., I think everyone has a bit of negative in them.
Yeah. And you know, when you're around people like it, in that, does that person fill you up or deplete you? Yeah. And it's not that they have to be given to you all the time. It's not that they have to be abundantly positive all the time. Like, I've got people who are having real struggles or illnesses or real problems in their business or their life, and I'll help them with it. Like, it's fine. You couldn't do it forever. Like, you couldn't with illnesses, obviously you can do, like, you know, but if someone was just like really negative and down on the business and you've helped them and given them advice, they don't take advice and they come back to you for more advice and just a shoulder to cry. And like, at some point you've got to say, mate, just like do one. Like, I'm not here to fix you. I'm gonna help you, but I'm not going to fix you.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very careful with that. But just a good question is, does that person, when I've left an interaction with them, do I feel more? Do I feel fulfilled? Am I lit up? Am I glowing? Do I feel like I could just like run through walls after speaking to that person? Or every time I come away from them, I just feel like, Jesus. And like, if that is prolonged, you can't continue it unless obviously they've got a situation that they just need that. That's different. If they're in a situation in their life, illness, for example, bereavement, whatever, where you have to be that person for them, then that's a different situation. And you've got to learn to deal with that and know that that's going to be the case for it, and then know how to pick yourself up off the back of it. That's a different thing. But you have to be aware of what you're doing and making sure that you're a force of positivity for other people, Emma, and that you help other people to flourish and to light them up. I have this on my desk as a reminder for myself, a golden buzzer. I don't watch TV, but I watch a bit of YouTube, and the bits that I get really emotional at, and I can't help it, I just cry, is when golden buzzers get pressed on Britain's Got Talent. You know, when someone's there that has been singing in the kitchen for years and they believe they can do it or whatever, and they then get to sing and then someone hits that buzzer and they just drop to their knees and and they just like cry because someone said, you're good. What someone's fundamentally saying, Emma, is you're good enough.
Yeah.
You're good enough. And someone said that to me. And when they said that to me many years ago, that literally took me off one path that I was on. That was not a good path, and put me on another path like that. And it's at the bottom of all fears, all addictions, is that question is, am I good enough? Am I enough? Am I enough? And it's to know that you are. So I have this golden buzzer on my table for every call, every interaction I have, which I think, how can I hit the golden buzzer for this person today? How can I help to unlock something, give them confidence in something, uncouple them from something to help them to move forward?
So just moving on, I know we've touched base on this briefly, but obviously Sage have announced the acquisition of GoProposal. So would you mind just sharing some further insight on how this happened and what this means now for the future of GoProposal?
Yeah, so the business was always built to sell. So that was always the game. And all of my team always knew that. We didn't quite know when we would sell, but we knew how much we would be prepared to sell for. And towards the end of last year, we started to get some companies talking to us and talking numbers that made me realize we're in the ballpark now. But it never materialized to anything. But it was enough for me to know that we're there or thereabouts. But I was like, right, okay. So bit of a high, bit of a low, got through January and thought, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's go to market. Let's bring in an M&A company. Let's go and find the companies that we think would be the best home for us. Let's go and do our due diligence on them. Let them do their due diligence on us, and let's see if it's the right time. We didn't have to sell. Like, we were making money, profitable, really exciting roadmap, team are buzzing. Like, so everything, like, if it didn't happen, we carry on and we come out in a couple of years' time and try again. So we recruited an M&A company. We took it to market. We identified who we'd like to sell it to. And out of those 6 companies wanted to see kind of presentations from us. 3 of them made offers. 2 were really strong offers. And 1 of them was from a company that was aligned with our values, that my team were very comfortable with, that were going in a similar direction to us, were motivated and wanted us. Like, you know they've got a bit of catch up to make in the digital cloud space, and they knew that we could help them to do that because of what we're achieving there, even though they're much bigger than us, and they wanted to learn from us in terms of our marketing and the way that we did certain things. So they had they were strongly motivated to want to make this partnership work, and we're aligned with values and everything, and that was it. Once we granted them exclusivity, then it was kind of months of due diligence, of just studying, top 4 accountancy firms, 2 of them, over 100 people looking into our accounts. And we had monthly management accounts set up since the beginning of time. So that was one of the first questions they asked. Can you show us your balance sheet? Show us your profit and loss? Can you show me your monthly management accounts for the last 5 years? There you go. Like, if you don't have that, you can't even start this conversation with them. And if you don't have them today, get on with it, because it's going to take you 3 years to start building that up, right? So we were investing very heavily into our finances at the time, into our finance function, like $5,000 a month. But even then, we still had to take it to another level because the level of your finance function that's required to enable your business to grow is one thing. To enable it to be bought by a PLC who are audited and have to publish figures and things is a whole other level, right? So you've now got to take it from your standard to a PLC standard, which was and had we not got it where we were in the first place, would have been a huge upheaval, but we got it to there. And it was literally thousands of questions, thousands. That's not an exaggeration. Some of those questions warranted 40-page answers. I was awake for the last 4 months of the process. I was up at 4:30 every day. Then in the last couple of months, it was 3:30. Just wake up, just getting on with stuff. And then I was on the last day. I thought, please just let me have a lie-in today. And I woke up at 2:30, and I was like, shit. And that was my earliest. I just couldn't get back to sleep. Just on with stuff straight with that. So obviously, you go through that process. You negotiate. You have your offer, and the offer that we was given from even at the end of due diligence was nothing was reduced in it. And then after all that work, you get to this one meeting where you've signed everything and you're on a Zoom call and you sat in your front room and they're like, right, is everything signed then? We've got all the signatures. Yeah, everyone happy? Right, we're done. That's that then. And you're like, oh God.
How did you feel?
Just relieved. Just like, imagine like a marathon runner doing an ultra marathon, just getting over the line like that. Oh, right.
Yeah. So
that was that. And then the next day, just refreshing your bank account every like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then the bank rang and said, Mr. Ashford, there has just been a sizable deposit arrived in your bank account. We just thought you should be aware of that. I said, thank you. And that was that.
Oh, at least I didn't get like the police on you or anything, thinking that you're doing.
You had to tell them. I didn't know this. I thought they were like, have you got a bank account? I'm like, yeah, I've got a Starling bank. They're like, you can't put this money into a Starling bank. Like, you'll be the biggest, customer. Like, you need like a proper established private bank that knows how to handle this type of stuff. So we had to be interviewed for a bank and speak to the bank owners and all sorts of things. So we had a bank account set up, and they knew what was coming. You had to provide evidence of where the money's coming from, the kind of anti-money laundering and various things like that, so that they were expecting of the cash when it arrived.
Well, I bet you had a lovely lay-in when all of that was done and dusted.
I don't think I did, actually. Don't have lines. Like my little boy will be wakes up at like 5 a.m. anyway, so like that's just like standard, just on it.
Oh well, it's better than 2:30, I suppose.
That is loads better than like anything with a 4 in it. Anything with a 4 in it upsets me if you have to wake up at that time. But 5 onwards, game on. Let's get on with it.
Do you know if there's going to be like any major changes or anything to the GoProposal system?
No, so we've got a very innovative roadmap that we're bringing in anyway. That takes it, that is bringing it to the concept of live proposals, Emma. So, and live engagement letters. So let's say, for example, there's a change to legislation like Brexit comes or whatever, right? And GDPR is affected or something else. Rather than have to reissue all of the engagement letters to your clients, you can literally say, there's been an update to this section. They go in, log in online, and they can see the update to their engagement letter. And also the idea of events-based live proposals. So let's say, for example, you've got you've got a client with 10 members of staff, and they've now got 11 members of staff. Well, the system will be intelligent enough to know that, and automatically, depending on the rules you set, either reissue the proposal and automatically change the fee of that client, or present them on a list for you to say, yep, I sanction all those adjustments, and it automatically reissues the new live proposal. So that was big innovations that we've been working towards. And again, very much aligned with what Sage are doing. So they just like, I probably can't share too much, but I had the best 8-minute meeting of my life when we first started working with Sage, and they were like, right, we're going to put this many millions of pounds into the GoProposal bank account for you to do everything that you want to do, for you to fulfill your roadmap, go in and get all them staff that you need, go and get all the developers, go and get the support staff, and just get on with it. Are we all happy with that? Right, done. 8 minutes. And the cash just went cha-ching, and we started recruiting. So they just want us to fulfill our roadmap and do everything we've been doing all along. So no major changes other than everything we've wanted to do, we can now do. And we have the backing of obviously Sage, which are £2 billion, £500 million profit a year beast of a company that can get behind us and give us that force that we need.
That's amazing. I mean, I can just to say on that point that you just mentioned about the new release, something like that, I mean, it'll make a huge difference to every firm, especially ours, because that is something that would help massively. So all very exciting. So just to finish off really, so what I was going to ask is, I know we've sort of touched on it in the beginning in regards to why businesses should use GoProposal, etc. But just to recap, why? So how would you reassure them that they definitely should be using it? And why would you tell them, right, go and read my book first and then go on and use GoProposal for your business?
Sure. So it's specifically for accounting businesses and bookkeepers. So fundamentally, at the heart of your business, you need to make money. That's the primary function of your business. Let's not shy away from that. You've got to make money. The way that money is generated is through a sale, where you say, we're going to give you this in exchange for you paying us this. And if over time that changes, i.e. we're now doing more for you, you need to give us more money. That is the actual turning wheel at the center of your accounting business that's actually going to make you money. So you now need a way of being able to agree that with the clients. They understand exactly what you're doing, to be able to do everything you can for them, to have a consistent method of pricing that every team member can use. If you limit this to 1 or 2 members of staff, they become the bottleneck and it won't happen. So it's about how do we empower the entire team to be able to use this, so that when they're having the conversation with a client and the client rings up and says, I've got a mortgage application that I've got to get through today, can you help me out with it? Absolutely. There's your new proposal. Just sign that, agree the fee. The engagement letter will now protect us from providing that advice.
You're now paying for the advice and we can now deliver it. Oh, you want our fast track service within 24 hours? Not a problem. Let me put that variation on there for you. And there you go. That's it. So to empower the entire team to be able to do this is absolutely key. And to have that sophistication of pricing behind it and the way the calculations are configured, the way that you price and sell your services is never fixed. It's not something you ever solve. It's always something that's evolving. So you need a system and a methodology that allows that evolution to be able to be constantly improving. So if you have a client or a service that's not profitable, how do we adapt that and how do we improve it? GoProposal is the only pricing and engagement letter software that is devoted to accountants, that's only devoted to that one industry of accountants and bookkeepers that does what we do. We have a competitor that works across all different businesses and not specialized in accounting and bookkeeping. And there's someone else that does some pricing, but not to our level of sophistication, or that has the sophistication of engagement letters that we have. So I don't share this that widely because I don't want to be too provocative to the industry or to our competitors. But with a leading product, there is nothing that compares to the way that we price and sell through GoProposal, the speed, the sophistication of the engagement letter. Nothing's close to that. And if a firm takes it on and they implement all of the philosophies and they use it as we show them, they will increase their revenue by between 20 and 30%. From existing clients, just by charging for everything that they do. And I've got so many stories of that actually happening. So it's people talk about apps and technology being game changers, but people have referred to us as like a life changer. Like I've had people ring me in tears saying that my marriage was on the rocks because I wasn't making enough money and I was working 80 hours a week and every weekend. And now I'm like, my marriage has improved because I'm charging more, working 4 days a week and recruiting staff, etc. But like, don't take my word for any of that, of what I've just said. Like, go and read the book. Go and get the book first. See if you believe what I'm telling you. And if you don't, then cool. But if you fundamentally believe in it, go and find everyone that I mentioned here. Go and find everyone that writes a testimonial and quote. Go and look on Amazon and find the people that give reviews. Search for GoProposal users. Go and ask them yourself. Do your own research so that you feel confident in taking the step forward with it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, James. That is everything from me. So I have to say you're absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me on, Emma. And, I just love what you guys are doing. And, there's a few firms that I would give my time to do a talk like this to. And they're the firms that are always looking to innovate and improve themselves, like I've been on your away days and things like that, because you're always looking for ways to make your firm better. How can you serve your clients better? And by doing this as well, is a brilliant initiative to help them out. So I really applaud what you guys are doing as well.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you like this episode, go and have a listen to the rest of the series. We are Raffingers, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Raffingers. Alternatively, you can visit our website at raffingers.co.uk. I've been your host, Emma Cohen, and this is Faces of Fintech.